Well, the breeze has increased a tad. It's now up to, 15 knots in the gusts. That's going to make it exciting in some of the more confined areas of this racetrack. We're now into the final countdown of race number 11. This is how it stands. Red Bull Sailing, well, they're leading, 11-point lead, but they've had some competition today. The Wave Muscat in second, and look how close it is between 3, 4, 5. GAC Pinder, Aman Air and Group Eben de Rothschild. 2 minutes to the start of this race. We're going to go to the start line now. Our eyes focused as the thousands who are here on the countdown to this start. The line up to this drag race. Well, the start of these races is a 550-metre sprint. Now, in the last race, Group Eben de Rothschild from France got it right, but they've got it wrong twice today, being over the line before the gun went. GAC Pinder, the British team, well, we've seen some pretty aggressive starting from them. They did tend to leave it to the last moment and charge in and try and find a gap. And the Danish team, SAP Extreme Sailing Team, they are pushing hard. They've had some moments today. They've come through unscathed. Coming up now to a minute to the start. We'll give you a wide shot in a moment to show the perspective of the boats to the start line. Well, that's the final minute now. Lining up now towards the start. Group Eben de Rothschild close to camera. Alinghi, they did well in the last race. They're about 50 metres away from the start. Can they slow down enough? The Wave Muscat, second overall. Dark light blue sails are coming in. Oh, they're sneaking out in front. Well, that's looking down on the start line. Start boat bottom right of picture. They're about to flick the accelerator on. Look at them lined up there now. Just sneaking out ahead. It's the China team are going to get off first. They've pressed the trigger. Oh, that's a clean start, or was it? The Danish team were close there to the line. All clear. Well, they're off now, and it looks like a drag race at the front of the fleet. Alinghi are in there. In the middle, it is Team China. And on the far side, it's the Danish team. Heading down towards the yellow mark. And Team China, middle of picture, are leading the fleet down towards, that's the yellow mark, the first mark. They then head down towards the city centre. The Danish team are coming in with pace, flying a hull, yellow top to the sail. And I think the Danish team, well, it's been quite a week for them, and they are going to round that mark in first place. Brand new to the series this year, new livery for this event. Jenica out. And big gust now, following between the buildings, power on, careful. Good rounding. Denmark leads, second, China, surprise, two brand new teams with the rest of the fleet in their wake. Alinghi third. Great start there for the Chinese. They had the best start. The Danish team came in fast. And with the Chinese team, and that is the fleet now as they pour down towards the gate. Back of the fleet, black sails, one hull in the air, Loic Perron making the most of that gust. And look at the way the difference is in speed. Gusts through the building, accelerate. But at the front now, the Danish team have jibed. Well, they've now got that gust, and this is their chance. They've got no other boats around them. They've got clearer air than the others. You saw that Jenica collapse. But the Danish team are pushing hard. They've had some very close moments. Unfurl quick on board the race leader, heading out towards the middle of the track. Right-hand boy, Alinghi on the attack. Denmark jibe, the Swiss team leave their Jenica up a little later. Right on the tails of the Danish team. We're on board now. On board, the words of Ian Williams, skipper of GAC Pinder. And now let's look out towards the racetrack. Majority of the fleet are heading out in towards the middle. Red Bull Sailing, the event leaders, are not. And nor are the Wave Muscat second overall here in Qingdao at the moment. But this is the race leaders. What a boost that would be to this team. New to the series, they started Extreme 40 sailing in Muscat in round 1. They found their feet there. They found a partner here. Well, that was announced on Monday. And they have opted to the cityscape side of the race course. That paid in the last race. A Lingi from Switzerland following them. But they need to keep an eye on the boats that have opted the other side of the racetrack. And that is the overall leader so far here. We'll just go and have a look at that. That's a Red Bull sailing team. And just behind the Wave Muscat. Will this side, the left-hand side of the course, pay? Don't think it will. Right, we're going to go tighter in now as we're on board now with Ian Williams. He's really having a difficult race. Well, Ian Williams tacking. Let's go now to the right-hand side. And that is Pinder, but we're going to now look at the leader because the Danish team have got pressure there. They're 3/4 of the way through this race. Well, they will be when they head up here the next time. They're just rounding now. Just see on these multi-hulls when you tack they almost stop, but they've got enough space between them and number 2. They've got that Jenica out quickly. There's often a big gust round there. French team second, so Denmark first, France second, Switzerland are third, Alingi. Well, the Danish team have extended that lead. The Group Edmund de Rothschild are second, Alingi are third, and we're just seeing now, remember, Team China. This is interesting. Loic Perron is coming in towards this top mark. He's got no right away, but has he got the pressure? Can he squeeze in there? Yes, he can. He's going for it. Oh. Well, expect some action on that one because he pushed it hard, Loic Perron. China team were forced to avoid from where we're sitting. And China team, well, they won't feel good about that. Perron was coming in with pressure. The China team forced to avoid. JC Pinder rounding that top mark, but we're going to head down towards the leader of this race because that is the Danish team, SAP Extreme Sailing Team, and they're coming in towards the bottom mark, the Danish team, unfurling that Jenica before the jibe. They're pretty sure about the fastest way up this next outwind leg. And now we're approaching the final of this race. So about 11 or 12 minutes. The Danish team have got the biggest lead that we've seen here today. But they're going to pass the second place Cruise Edmund de Rothschild, who came in with a big gust. And that Jenica is being unfurled there. Well, the Danish team now are going to look for a gap between these boats that are coming down. Group Edmund de Rothschild have rounded that mark in second. We've got a Lingi coming in now. So Alingi are rounding in third place. They've got the Wave Muscat, who are having a good race. They're catching up. They're making grounds through the fleet. And as the rest of the fleet pour down there, right of picture, we've got the Danish team. We'll go tight and have a look on board that boat in a moment. But they are clear to tack now, the Danish team, when they want. They've got good direction and good wind where they are, so they'll probably continue a bit more. There they go into attack. They have to stay a little further off the shore for this course. Race officials thinking they were just heading a little too close, too much congestion here in this terribly confined racetrack. And now we're looking at SAP Extreme Sailing Team. And that is 1 and 2 with the city of Qingdao, the Olympic sailing venue in 2008. There was no racing on these waters back in the Olympic Games. And the Danish team now, new to multi-hull sailing, experienced match racers, competed in the America's Cup. But this now really does appear to be a breeding ground for some of the most successful sailors in the current edition of the racing of the America's Cup. Well, they proved their worth on the Extreme Sailing Series. Don't be surprised if the sailors on board SAP Extreme Sailing Team find their way there. Little anxious look on board the Danish boat, but was behind. Yeah. Because behind, Group Edmund de Rothschild are catching, and I can tell you, look at that. Well, the gust that's taking SAP up on one hull is funneling down this very narrow bit of water that they're going to sail up. SAP, now look at that. Wind dies, big building behind. You can see why. Almost at a standstill. Just work your way through that one behind. Group Edmund and Rothschild have got a big gust, hull in the air. The SAP Extreme Sailing team are back in the breeze as the French team slow down, entirely predictable. But eyes focused now on the Danish team because some big gusts are coming through here. Is there one now? Don't think so. Squeeze round that mark. Round that mark, it's 150 metres to the finish. OK, can they bear away? Can they turn fast enough? Big gust coming now for the Danish team. Bear away, bear away. They've got a wall just in front of them. Bear away, the Danish team. They've got a wall just in front of them. It's very close. Jibe. They're OK. A moment. Recovered. Group Edmund and Rothschild behind, but now it will be a win for SAP Extreme Sailing Team. This is their first event in these colours. Victory for the Danish team. Lying 8th overall so far in this event. And it's another good result for the French Group Edmund and Rothschild. They've had some disappointments today. They've also had a race win. This is a second place. They're climbing up the leaderboard. Group Edmund and Rothschild. Behind them, we haven't talked about them much in this race, but the Wave Muscat have had a solid performance. They've upgraded during the race. They were second overall going into this. They will certainly defend that second place. Wave Muscat, second overall. Well, Alinghi now come in, and that completes the top four. Bit of a gap now as we're just looking up that final bit of very narrow water. We haven't seen any drama, but we've seen some close moments, and Pinder and Red Bull Sailing close to the wall. Red Bull Sailing, yeah, jibe first. When this breeze comes up later this afternoon, this is going to get harder and harder. Well, Red Bull Sailing are having a pretty mixed day. That lead is getting eroded. Oh, and Pinder there are forcing them. Bit of match race sailing there from Ian Williams, but he hasn't got an overlap. He can't force the Austrian team. Intense battle between these two at the top of the leaderboard in this race. Protest there from Ian Williams against the Austrian team. But Austria gets 6th. 7th is GAC Pinder, and Loic Perron. Difficult start to the race, couldn't recover, and the Team China, well, they may be wondering about that second rounding of the yellow mark, where they may feel they were forced out of a mid-fleet position. In the end, back of the fleet for the China team. Well, the breeze is making these races more and more technical, more and more interesting, and as the gusts increase, we've seen some close moments. But so far, Red Bull Sailing Team are defending their position at the top of the table, but today they're starting to hang on. If it carries on like this, we could well see a new leader at the end of the afternoon.